part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Welcome back, everybody, to Podcast 616, the official podcast of Earth 616. I am your host, Damon Royster, still playing around with the speed at which I talk, and today is no different. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We are continuing our X-Men coverage. We're deep in the summer of X, everybody, and we are talking about these dang prequels. And, you know, it's time. The people have been clamoring for it. No one has, but the people have been clamoring for it. I know they have. I know the nerds listening to this have been waiting and ready for this. We are talking about the second prequel, but also the fifth sequel. Who knows if is this a prequel or is it a sequel? We'll discuss that today. We're talking about X-Men, Days of Future Past, aka a soliloquy for Sentinels. Joining me today are two wonderful guests, and they are yawning with joy to be a part of this wonderful conversation. My first guest is a Chicago-based comedian, and let me tell you, really comes through for you in a pinch. Please welcome to your ears, Devin Henderson.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, anytime. Devin, thank you for being here. Thank you for, I heard you listen to this podcast.
I absolutely do. Forgive me for being so rude and coughing right on it, but absolutely. I'm a huge Marvel freak, a nasty little Marvel freak. I read the comics. I've seen everything a million times,
hell yeah.
and I love the pod.
Oh my gosh, truly strange words to my ears, but I'm so happy that you do that. Thank you for doing this. And yeah, we're actually talking about comic books on this episode, which is rare for us. My second guest, anxiously waiting to speak his thoughts. He is the star of Apple TV. He literally is on all the Apple shows. Start with Platonic and then watch the other ones. Our little starlet, you're my favorite and yours. Please welcome to your ears, Queen Vinny Thomas.
Good morning. I was going to say good evening, but that would have been sick.
Absolutely sick
in the head.
Vinny, what's up? This is your third time on the podcast.
This is. I genuinely have nothing better to do. I think one thing about me is I don't have friends, so I show up whenever Damon says do my podcast.
It's true. He's never said no.
I've never said no.
And Vinny, just for the record, you don't have friends. You live in Mid City, and that's an LA read.
Don't tell people where I live, you nut ass.
Ooh,
leave that shit out.
Vinny, no one's gonna go to Mid City. You're fine.
What? Damon.
Now, as someone who's not from LA,
I'm gonna get TMZ bust, you stupid broad. Sorry.
I think, Vinny, you're overestimating. Well, although I just discovered people listen to the podcast, so who knows? Maybe. Wait, Devin, did you have an LA question?
I was going to say, as somebody who's not from LA, how would you describe Mid City to a listener who's not from LA?
Close to the tar pits, which is why I moved here.
Wait, the tar pits, you're by the museum.
I'm not right next to the museum. I'm maybe a mile and a half from the museum, but it's the same neighborhood.
And by the museum, I do mean LACMA, the LA Museum of Contemporary Arts, which is, the Mid-City. I mean, it's pretty far, but it's also like in such, I would say, like a business district where it just doesn't feel welcome to drive and park.
Oh, yeah.
Is my impression. Vinny, do you want to defend your neighborhood?
You look so defensive.
It's got the tar pits in it. It's got the La Brea tar pits, which are filled with the bones of long dead creatures. It's got such a good vibe, and there is a lot of parking if you go during the day. At night, you're kind of fucked. There's nowhere to park. But if you go during the day, you can park in the little residential blocks. Why am I saying all of this? Also, I don't actually live in Mid-City. That's actually a very funny joke. I'm in Long Beach. Okay, next.
Okay. I think we're trying to cover our tracks, and that's fine. Let's get away from the geographicalness of LA. Truly, no one has been able to figure it out.
Thank God.
We are talking about X-Men Days of Future Past, which, let's go to Devin Henderson, new to the pod. What are you coming in with? Because there's so much to talk about. Let's just forgo Marvel at large. Let's just focus on X-Men and specifically the Days of Future Past storyline. Did you know about it before you watched this movie?
Yeah, I've seen this movie multiple times. I don't know that I read the entire comic when I was a kid, but I read a large chunk of it when I was really, really young. And I've seen all the X-Men movies, a million times. So pretty well versed.
Hit that continent. Vinny Thomas, what about you? We've never talked about X-Men before. Do you like them?
No, I love X-Men. I really like the older ones when I was a kid. And honestly, I like the new ones too. I had never heard of Days of Future Past. I'd never seen those words strung together in that order before in my life.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. And yeah.
I love it. Shout out to former hip hop presidential candidate for the lyrics. Because whenever I hear Days of Future Past, I always think of that line from that song Monster. I'm living in the present, I'm living in the future, so the present is my past. My presence is the present. Kiss my ass. I always think of that when I hear Days of Future Past. Check out Monster.
Okay.
I will not say the name of the artist, but I'll just say he was running for president. I think we all know who I'm talking about.
My president.
Barbs. But yeah, this is such like a famous X-Men storyline. And I would say like the last 3 X-Men prequels were all like, we're just going to hit the big titles because we get Days of Future Past, then we get Apocalypse, then we get Dark Phoenix. So like all these major plot points. And yeah, shout out to Kitty Pryde, because in the original comic book, it was Kitty Pryde who does the time traveling. And then in the X-Men cartoon series, it was Bishop who time travels to the past. We get a little Bishop action in this movie. But now we get Wolverine. Yes, I guess that's going to be my outreach to the nerds for the comic book lore, because I just want to dig into this movie. Okay, so.
Yeah. I did look up the Rotten Tomato score, and I was shocked with how much people liked it. Because I thought, okay, what's wrong with me that I'm kind of like struggling to figure out which storyline matters the most?
Speak on that. Yes, I think my biggest issue with this movie is that it really succumbs from what I would call the cult of Jennifer Lawrence, of like this era and time where it's like we have to center everything around her. That's my one issue with the movie.
Yeah.
But we'll get to her. Vinny Thomas, producer Michael is not here today, but he did some research on both of you guys. And Vinny Thomas, he did discover that you are actually from a dystopian future. So given how this movie starts, did you feel a kinship to the horrors and atrocities that had befallen the mutants?
I did. I think in the future I'm from, there aren't really Sentinel robots. I think people are just made of kind of a bad kind of meat. So I think I did feel a kinship in the kind of bleakness and the kind of darkness that it opens with. I think it's I do actually really like that. I like the way it was very I don't know, the colors are different. I like it when you go back in time and it's prettier. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like it was really, really gross, and then they go back in time and it's like the 60s or whatever, and it's kind of nice. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Like I feel like in the future, the only color used is to like for the jail cells. They lock people away. So it's like you actually don't want to be around that. Stealing gay bar neon to imprison people. What a crime. So we're in this future. Mutants are being hunted. Humans who support mutants are being hunted. And like, I think Sentinels just rule the land. And I think they say like only the worst humans, which now in 2023, I know who would. Devin Henderson, who do you think it would still be around in this apocalyptic future? What humans?
Of humans? First of all, not me, because anytime an apocalyptic event happens, I immediately sacrifice myself. I don't understand people who like when the zombie apocalypse comes, they're trying to like hold out or like doomsdayers. I'm like, I'm not trying to live out of canned beans for the rest of my life. So it would not be me. I don't know. Joy Behar, absolutely 100% Joy Behar is still alive. I love Joy Behar, and she's going to live forever. By the way, this movie is set in 2023. The future part of this movie, according to Wikipedia. Isn't that wild?
That's wild.
They got that wrong, bitch.
Okay.
They got that so wrong. Top to bottom. None of that.
Vinny's letterbox has a huge comment that's like, nice try, bitches. Everything about this movie is wrong.
I made it to 2023 and I can still see the sun. It's so funny because the original comic, The Bad Future, was in 2013 and this movie came out in 2014. So we're just, here we are. So we meet the future X-Men. Shout them out now. Anyone stand out in this future crew that you were like glad we saw him?
I'm glad Halle Berry's still there.
Yes.
I guess I'm a little fuzzy on the timeline, and maybe I'm a little fuzzy on her lore. Does Storm age or no?
Well, it's hard because her hair's always white, so you can't really tell.
Nice.
I do think she's supposed to be older, but like
would have liked to see. I don't think we've ever seen an old Storm portrayed on the silver screen. You know, I think that would have meant a lot to a lot of viewers.
And during my cursory Wikipedia scroll, Halle Berry was actually pregnant during the filming of this movie, so her role was
unprofessional.
Limited.
We're
absolutely unprofessional of her. How dare she?
Absolutely. Speaking of limiting her role, she had, and I counted it, one line.
No.
She had one line, and it's something like hold the fort or something that truly couldn't matter less.
Mind the gap. Yeah, I mean, I was so excited to see Storm. She's one of my favorites, and I know from the comics I've read that she's one of the most powerful. She's like a god tier mutant, and I just feel like she hasn't been portrayed as that in any movie ever, which I think is a real shame.
Yeah,
you know?
Like her biggest powerful move was that she created that huge storm, but still Magneto like floated a ship out so she could electrocute it. So and it like destroyed a bunch of Sentinels, but she still needed some help to do her big move.
When she's a goddess, you know? So I would like to see a super powerful Storm. But I was glad to see her. I think maybe she was my favorite. Also, from the cartoon, I'm a big fan of Kitty Pryde and Ice Guy. What's his name?
Iceman.
Wow.
Or Bobby Drake.
Bobby Drake, who is gay now, I think, right? Is he homosexual?
Well, Bobby Drake is a gay ass name, I will say.
It's very weird and complicated, but apparently in the comics, the time travel and a past version of Bobby Drake came to the present, and that past version came out, and future Bobby's like, wait, should I have?
This is too much. I'm in the weeds.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, that's a lot. Bobby Drake does sound like a gay porn site from the early 2000s. like Sean, Cody, Randy, Blue, Bobby Drake. The names of all my dogs. I have 4 dogs behind me.
And it's just like
Sean, Cody, Bobby Drake,
and like the graphic is him spraying ice, like Bobby Drake.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
like frost, like we all know. Good crew.
There's a little like right at the end of the film, or like right at the end of the font, there's like a little bell in the distance ringing, like ding.
Yeah. We also get some new mutants up here. We get Blink, who my queen. She's the one who can open all those portals.
I love her. Oh,
amazing.
She was my favorite part of this movie the first time I saw it.
Yeah. Not really much to say, but
she's wicked.
She is. She's great. I wish they would have used a different color. I'm seeing like that pink pop up thematically a lot in X-Men for some reason. And this is such a small thing, but I just think they should have used maybe a different color. I think yellow might have been fun, you know?
We think yellow might have been fun. Yeah.
Write that down.
Absolutely. We also get Warpath, who his power, they kind of just mention it. He can like sense when the Sentinels are coming, and then he's got that big knife. So you know, it's the apocalypse. We're kind of getting the bottom of the barrel with mutants. And then we get Bishop, who, man, love my guy Bishop. His thing is like he just feeds off of other people's energy. Cool. Sunspot, he's the fire guy.
Same powers as a tapeworm. That's crazy.
Yeah, I hate when they do that in the X-Men. There's a couple characters who are like, they need to get hit to use their powers, or like they need to be. I'm like, imagine you have a superpower that needs ammo, which is like being assaulted. That sucks.
Say that. I would agree. We also get the old favorites, Bobby Drake, gay porn star alum Bobby Drake, Storm, Kitty Pryde, and our guy Wolverine. Devin Henderson, can't help but notice you're wearing a huge Hugh Jackman t-shirt right now. Are you a fan of Wolverine?
There's not a greater song and dance man that has ever been born in America or Australia than Hugh Jackman. I loved Hugh Jackman since he started as Wolverine, and I'll love him through until he's playing Wolverine in a wheelchair of his own.
Mm-hmm. Which
I love Hugh Jackman.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. If you want to hear our thoughts of Hugh Jackman, this podcast did cover all the Wolverine movies in July. Listen to those because I don't have time.
Now those were good. Those were good.
Well, the last one was great. Yeah.
Wait, the podcast or the movies?
All of the above.
There's no way to know. Yeah.
There's no way to know. So, okay, we're bopping around in the future. It's not great. And we come up with this plan. We get Professor X and Magneto, who I'm so glad my sisters are here with me, because these two, I don't care what they're trying to do with Mystique. These two are a couple. And the only reason they're mad when they're younger is because they can't express themselves. And I know these old ass men are fucking on that X-Jet in the future. I know that's what they're doing. You can't tell me different. They're like, Professor's like, Eric, at last we can be together. Finally. It's like Patrick Stewart, famously, it's a good one. So they get
disgusting.
What is Vinny? Gay love?
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
What a crazy fucking thing to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, set your sights on Mid-City tonight.
Wow.
Why?
Tonight we ride.
What
Every
are
time
my
that comes up,
happy friends?
Simply, but I'm so worried.
Wait, what'd you say?
Nothing. Go ahead.
To the tar pits.
So Xavier and his boyfriend Magneto are like, oh my gosh, daddy, we need help. So they come up with this plot to go back in time. Xavier's like, oh, I'll do it. And Kitty Pryde's like, bitch, you're old. Your brain will fucking melt if I do this. Conveniently, Wolverine steps forward and he's like, hey, I've actually headlined several movies on my own. I think I'm strong enough. And by that, I mean, I have enough star power to make this trip.
Yeah.
Vinny Thomas, you are a resident quantum physics expert, according to our research. Does this scientifically make sense, what we're doing? Kitty Pryde, who has the power to phase through solid objects, is going to phase Wolverine's mind through time into his younger body.
If you think of time as the fourth dimension, essentially what she's doing is phasing through a window which we can't see, right? But because of Kitty's mutant abilities, is apparently able to physicalize and a mind and what's the word and see in her mind's eye and essentially send someone's mind, well, not their physical brain, their mind, their spirit. It's kind of a spirit tap into a well of some kind. Yeah.
Okay. And y'all, that's why you get a scientist for your podcast. Thank you so much. So that's like the plan, but like part one, to send Wolverine back in time, because the Sentinels have gotten so advanced that they're like mimicking mutant abilities. And that's because, little did we know, Boulevard Trask, stunt queen extraordinaire, has taken the DNA of our girl Mystique and used her powers on the Sentinels. And it all started, well, I guess it started when she killed Trask in the 70s. Her first kill, never forget your first. And his people like took her DNA and whatever, put it in the Sentinels. It took 50 years. So yeah, they're going to try. Wolverine's going to go back in time, get these two boyfriends back together and get them to convince Mystique to stop, because the retcon of the century is that Professor is like, actually, Mystique's my friend. She was like a sister to me.
Can I say something about Mystique?
Please, we're going to say a lot about her. Please.
Yeah, she has shingles, but not in the way you'd expect. And and as a direct result, the Sentinels also have shingles, but not in the way you'd expect. And it's the most fascinating. I don't know. in the comics, was there a first comic in which she transformed via shingle, or back in the day did she used to just kind of slip and slop around, because the way she shapeshifts is very elegant and not what I would usually associate with shapeshifting, which is that someone either crunches or blobs into the right shape.
Crunch or blob.
So whoever created the shingles first, I want to applaud you as a visual tool. It was really elegant and well done.
I mean, I do think we have to give a shout out to the criminal behind the scenes, Brian Singer, for that. I feel like that was his.
Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Just know he's around. But as it goes to Mystique, is like, I remember her from like the cartoon as just being like, she was always in like a white tunic or something, or like she had like
a
skull belt.
Yeah.
And not
Baby
really.
skulls.
She would just always like have a gun or something. This like slip and slide. I wrote in my notes, she has like the power of a Swiffer. That's like a new movie only thing. There's that scene where she's like I think they're in Paris and she's like sliding under the table. I'm like, she's getting all that dust. She goes,
those shingles are all microfiber. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's scooping it up.
She's gonna have to walk through like a car wash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's disgusting, fellas.
I mean, she doesn't wear clothes. She's just filthy the entire time.
Devin Mystique in a car wash. She puts her hands up like this and she just like, goes side to side.
Thank you. Okay, so we're sending Wolverine back in time to the future. Just a note, it looks like Bobby and Kitty are still a thing, which is something left over from X-Men 3.
Beard.
When he goes back to the past the first time, before we move on, because it was so jarring to me that I have to address it. Mm-hmm. He kind of like wakes up in the bed of somebody else, and then tells the first strangers he sees that he's from the future. He leads with that, and then later, whenever he meets the X-Men, who are like kind of hip to this weird shit, he intentionally like dangles a carrot in front of Hank's, but like not telling him he's from the future, just like these really ambiguous like pseudo wisdoms of like, we'll be friends in the future, and then like walks up. I'm like, you're an intruder from my perspective, get out. Mm-hmm. But whenever he meets these new strangers and whatever, he's like, yeah, I did have sex with her multiple times, but it wasn't me, it was actually me, but not now, a little bit ago, but for me a long time ago. You're like, what the
well, I think it's okay. I hear you.
Days of Future ass.
Days of Future. More like. My take on that, what you were saying, Devin, is that it's like, I don't think he cares about those people, so he's like, I'll tell them whatever. But like Hank and Charles, that's like his ex-family. Like, he's like, I'm gonna know these people. I don't think he cares about whatever criminal underworld he was working with back then. Yes, we established Wolverine in the past. He's got Bone Claw again. When he doesn't have the adamantium, I call him Bone Claw. I think that should have been a superhero name. And he should have said like Bone Claw.
And instead of having like a sleek sound effect, it's just like,
yeah.
It is such a weird name for who he is. I think based on his powers and based on the biological tools he has, it would have been more appropriate to call him like Sloth Man or Bear Fellow. Do you know what I mean? He's got like
Bear Fellow.
He's got like long claws that are not Wolverine like at all, I guess. And because he's not short and stocky in the movie, I don't get. They shouldn't still call him Wolverine. They should call him some other kind of mammal, like mink or something.
Mink. I'm Mink. Your notes are heard and preserved for the record. Devin Henderson, talk to me about Boulevard Trask. Who is she? What do we know about her? Do we like the stash?
So Boulevard Trask is, I mean, to be 100% honest, it's not that he doesn't have a case. And it's not that these mutants don't give him clear and tangible evidence as to why his case is important. The thing that is so bizarre about Trask is that he seems to be in every room no matter what. But it's not like he's invited. He's sort of like there will always be like a group of non-distinct men that he sort of bobs through at the appropriate moment. But he is a tech man because all of his tech immediately connects to whatever Wi-Fi is in the room of 1977. So like nobody knows he's there, and he pulls out like a remote from his lapel and it changes the White House televisions.
Yep. He's connected.
He's kind of a tech guy.
Yeah. Kind of a tech guy, played by lovely Peter Dinklage. Really
lovely Peter Dinklage.
I have to say, for me, just banking off of the Game of Thrones success and kind of just riding that wave. I don't know if he did anything different besides the accent that he wasn't doing on Game of Thrones. He was less funny and less drunk, but I love Peter D. What can I say? I do think his next Marvel appearance when he played the giant who makes Thor the new axe in Infinity War, more fun for me. So I want to speak about the structure of this movie because I think I do commend it. What a brilliant way to do a sequel to a prequel while also continuing an overarching franchise. Like, we have time traveled into the time that takes place after X-Men First Class. So the mutants have just, solved the Cuban Missile Crisis. Thank you, God. Unfortunately, January Jones did not survive. Emma Frost is no more. We have to go to Vietnam. We have to go to Vietnam.
Honestly, the words of the writers of this movie, they have this entire plot, and then they're like, we have to work in Vietnam. We have to work in the Vietnam War. It's not going to be believable. We need It's wild.
No one knows about the Vietnam War.
No, not until we say so. So, okay, we're in Vietnam. Mystique is like on the hunt. I will say this actor, this general man, great job. I felt a feminine energy from him. I'll just say that.
Sorry, which actor?
It was like when she goes into the bunker where they're holding all the mutants, including Havoc and Young Toad.
Yeah.
And she's pretending to be this general. He had a little bit of a swish going on that I didn't find offensive. I felt like he just put a little glitter on his performance, and I like that.
Little sugar in his tank.
Sugar in his tank,
Yeah.
I'm reclaiming that phrase for us.
It is a good phrase.
It's amazing. I love it.
It's like one of those phrases that somebody screams at you in anger, and you're like, oh, but actually,
an accurate depiction of how I feel.
Something a Southern grandmother says whenever a man dresses well.
Oh, sugar in his tank. Thus causing the man to feel self-conscious so that he doesn't want to dress nice anymore.
Anyway,
toxicity comes from outside as well. Okay, so Mystique is like liberating mutants. We get a little cameo from Lucas Till. Havoc. Wish he had stayed, but fine, whatever. This is also like the whole thing of like humans hunting mutants is a great way to like get rid of all the mutants we met in First Class. Of like, I just watched it, so that's why it's fresh in my mind. Of like Emma Frost, the little Red Devil, the Tornado Man, Angel, Zoe Kravitz, also not asked back for this X-Men movie. She did. Deal with it. It's a harsh time. Essentially, yeah, there's that. Cool. I want to talk about Nicholas Hoult. Vinny, Thomas, if you are comfortable enough, I do think you guys used to be an item. How did it feel seeing him as Beast?
It felt great. Actually, that's not true. I can't say that about someone I theoretically might work with someday.
Oh my God.
No, I'm just kidding. We used to be an item. That item was like a small urn. Where am I going with this stupid? I like Nicholas Hoult as Beast. I think he plays. I think he plays a charming nerd and a believable young professional, which is what one needs to be as Beast. I think. Yeah.
very demure. I hated him. I hated Beast.
Oh, I'm sorry. Forget what I said. Me too.
Very and I don't know if I can say this on the podcast, but like very cuck energy.
Ooh, never been said before.
Very much like on the outside of every I felt bad because I was like, he's truly on the outside of every close relationship he has. Like, Wolverine, he's been essentially holding up with Professor Xavier in this mansion as he like does drugs. I guess drugs that he makes for him. And then the moment Wolverine comes in, it's like tunnel vision. And we just see a bunch of shots of Nicholas Hoult like longingly glaring at either Professor Xavier or Mystique, or even there are times at Eric. He's like, oh, I wish I belonged somewhere. I've just felt so bad the whole time.
Yeah, I guess you could feel bad. I felt like he was a self-hating mutant. Like he's always been like, like, I gotta hide my thing. I'm like, bitch, you're fucking Beast. Like, you dummy. You're the bluest fucking blue piece of blue shit ever.
That's not true. He's not the bluest guy in that show.
Who's the bluest?
What's his face? Mystique's bastard son.
Nightcrawler?
Yeah.
I guess he is the Blue Devil. But, you know, Beast is he's the furriest. Can you give me that at least?
I suppose. So you guys really didn't like him just because you felt like he wasn't like the Beast in the old movies where he's like wearing a little suit and
I wanted Kelsey. I wanted Kelsey.
Yeah. Nobody can do it like Kelsey.
Oh, okay.
And when he comes in at the end, I screamed at the TV, missed opportunity.
Could have been great.
He was willing to do it.
And Kelsey needs that work. Nobody calls Kelsey Grammer.
They're doing a Frasier reboot. And I think you know that.
Yeah.
And I'm unemployed.
I've heard of it.
He's the only one coming back.
Think about that. But yeah, I just didn't like how Hank McCoy was like suppress the mutant identity because he made this drug that allowed Professor X to walk, but also didn't allow him to. He wasn't a telepath anymore. James McAvoy.
What a coincidence.
Don't you hate it? I have never been more unattracted to James McAvoy than in this movie.
Girl, what did they do to him?
I was like, he clearly is sad because I don't feel horny for him like I usually do.
I think what it is he didn't have deer legs. Go ahead, Devin.
What? Deer legs?
Are you familiar with the film? Yeah, there it is. It's
what's his name? Mr. Mustopheles?
Mr. Mustopheles is like
Rumple
a demon
teaser
from the Bible or something.
I think Mistopheles is a character from the musical Cats.
No,
okay.
You're thinking of Balthazar. You're thinking of Lucifer. Mistopheles is a demon.
Anyway, I'm coming. Listeners, you should know I'm coming in with a bias. I don't enjoy 70s aesthetic. I don't enjoy the 1970s aesthetic. It is fashion wise, it is the complete opposite of what I like in fashion, as you can see from my yellow tank top that I'm wearing today. I'm sorry, Vinny is doing jazz hands at me. What's up?
So you don't like, I feel like it was 60s, 70s, right? Or maybe it was just straight up 70s.
This is straight up 70s. I love the 60s. I love clean lines and cropped hair.
Interesting. Maybe I don't know the difference enough. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just the whole disco bell bottom, huge buttons is just not for me.
I love it. I
love it.
Feels
like you hate disco.
Is what?
It feels like you hate disco. It feels.
And Devin, what did you say?
I was going to say, I love it. It feels like adults were appropriately doing acid and taking all their inspirational cues from like children's television shows. I love the big hair. I love, open backs for no reason.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Platform shoes or whatever.
Okay. Now, what the ladies were wearing, it's great. The wrap dress, I love the wrap dress. Everything Amy Adams wore in American Hustle. Loved it. Yeah.
You're not into like the men with the long pointed collars.
I hate that. Yeah.
We can get rid of those. You're right.
Okay. Cool. Okay, great. Also, I think porn stashes look better with short hair. And that's just how I feel. So Professor X, this is an earnest question for the people on the pod. Do you buy this idea that Professor X is depressed because Mystique isn't there, when really he should be depressed that his boyfriend isn't there? That's my thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They do try to build it up like it's this horrible thing of like, oh my God, Mystique is whatever, as though Mystique is like ever given you any reason to believe she'd be anything other than exactly who she is. Like, didn't we cover this already?
She's literally two-faced. Like, literally.
Some might even say more than two.
Mm-hmm.
I think what was it like that in the comics? Did you like go back and see a Professor X who had completely abdicated his responsibility in the school? I think that was really, really sad to me, and I didn't totally understand why. Like, he's sitting in this giant empty building. Meanwhile, all these mutant kids all over the world are probably suffering still. And I'm like, that doesn't seem like him. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like something he would necessarily do. I mean, sure, he could be depressed or whatever, but I think the school would still be a functioning entity.
Unless his heart was broken because of love for his boyfriend.
I mean, it checks out more than anything we saw.
If your boyfriend became an international terrorist, that would shut you down, I bet.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine such a situation for myself.
I can't even empathize.
I can't.
Because my boyfriend would never get caught. My boyfriend, my guy, he wouldn't leave breadcrumbs. Okay, my guy's a professional.
Mm-hmm. And if he did, they would lead to the guy, Harvey Oswald.
Speaking of following breadcrumbs, let's follow some breadcrumbs into a break. That's right, everybody. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with probably Act 2 of the movie. Once again, I have let us just talk all about the first act, but we have so much more to talk about. We're going to go into, oh my God, Evan Peters, of course, has to be here, so we have to talk about that. It's all coming up after the break, so keep it right here. Days of Future Past will not be in the past for you. We're in your future. Coming right back. Here's the break. Goodbye.
Welcome, everyone, to Podcast 616, the official podcast of Earth 616. I am your host, Damon Royster, and I am inviting you to listen and subscribe to this Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast. On Podcast 616, we gather some of today's greatest comedians, writers, and actors to dive deep into all things Marvel, like comic book history and lore, all the interconnected superhero storylines, and of course, who's hot and who's not in the MCU. Honestly, why aren't you listening right now? You have the power to listen to Podcast 616. And as we always say, with great power comes even greater responsibility. Listen and subscribe to Podcast 616 wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. Here's how Books with Brooks works. We read one book a month, and then we talk about it. Classics like Stephen King's The Shining, debut novels like We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lang, and tons of other compelling, life-changing stories, one book and 1 month at a time. So come read along with us, and then listen in.
Hey everyone, this is Don Mike Mendoza, the host of Producing While Asian. Join us in Season 2 for more conversations with actors, artists, producers, and more from Broadway, Hollywood, and beyond, every other Wednesday on the Press Play Podcast Network.
And we're back. Devin Henderson, Magneto, played by Michael Fassbender. Dewey Jeer, how do you feel about Michael Fassbender in this movie?
In all sincerity, I think he's phenomenal. Yeah. He has that energy of like a boyfriend who you know is bad for you, but you can't pull yourself away. Like, I'm never that girl. I'm always like treat me like shit and no thank you. Mm-hmm. But there is something about him. He's very, very attractive. And also, I'm on his side. Like Charles Xavier with this whole like hope and peace and love, and that stuff has never worked in the history of the world.
Yeah.
So like at the very least, like protect your own. What are we doing here?
Oh yeah. And I mean, the science is on his side. We mutants have evolved beyond humans. Like, I believe the actual name is Homo superior, which
Well,
I would also call this call Homo superior.
Our boy band name.
Get into it.
Do you guys think when we drove the Neanderthals into extinction,
as
that
we did,
this conversation was being had among them too? Like, we didn't have any powers or anything. We just had like longer legs, and they were like, "This is it for us." You know what I mean? This is a wrap.
It's over. Well, I also think their brows were like more forward, so I don't think they saw very well.
Yeah. Okay. So it was for the best. I also like
Fassbender.
Yes, I was gonna say Ray Fiennes, but that's a whole other bitch.
We famously the Dark Lord.
Famously the Dark Lord. I like Fassbender. He's got that like cold, scary thing. You know what I mean? Like, he's not even trying. He's just confident in what he believes in. And that's great.
Yeah. And I think it does a great job retroactively making Ian McKellen's Magneto just as badass, who like maybe he didn't do quite as much, but like if we are to believe this is his past, I'm like, oh yeah, I can definitely see why. Where I feel like Ian McKellen would just do big giant swings, but this Magneto, he did a lot of like little like when he went to reclaim his helmet and he had those little metal balls just kind of flying around. The hat, that was some 70s male fashion I could get behind. His little hat, sunglasses, and little blazer.
Do you guys ever want to go back in time and tell comic book writers not to give every superhero a stupid fucking name? Do you ever think about that? Sometimes I think about what a cool character Magneto is, and then I think about his name, and I'm like, oh, it just takes me completely out of it whenever I hear like Magneto.
Of all the names in this movie, Magneto is the one that takes you out of it.
They're all bad except for Mystique's, whose is like cool and perfect,
right?
But
there's a guy in this film named Sunspot.
Yeah. Actually, Sunspot, I don't mind as much. You know, I think for me, it's the ones that completely date themselves. You know,
I guess, yeah.
Quicksilver, like
who?
Okay,
and I do believe it's Quicksilver o'clock. So thank you for that perfect transition. So Vinny Thomas, what are your thoughts about Quicksilver?
That scene, which I believe is in this movie, when it's like, if I could save time in a bottle.
Yeah. And it's just like moving people around.
Yes, everyone was freaking out about that when it happened. Everyone loved that scene. I love that scene. I think it was great. I think Evan Peters plays a very specific type, and while I didn't necessarily imagine that for Quicksilver, I think he did a great job. You know?
Oh yeah. My only issue with Quicksilver is the dumb asides they do of like, hey, my dad could manipulate metal. Huh. Or like my mom met somebody, or my mom fucked somebody who could manipulate metal before I was born. Oh, I wonder. It's like either do it or don't do it. Like we all know.
And he knows that because she told him.
Yeah.
Like,
also,
hey,
like on the porch on a hot summer day, like, your father was quite the man.
Well, I do think
someone who could manipulate metal before you were born.
I do believe that, because if you were like, I'm super fast, it would be like, hey, it's okay, I once knew a guy who could manipulate metal. Like,
oh yeah, I guess that makes more sense than
like if he's like, mommy, why am I so fucking fast? What's wrong with me?
I was gonna say one of the most disgusting things I've ever thought of.
I mean, if not here, then where?
Okay. Do you think she named him? I'm gonna do this, and it's okay.
Please.
Do you think his mom named him Quicksilver because that's what came out of Magneto?
No.
I'm sorry. Let's keep going. You can just get rid of that. What I just said.
No. We're gonna keep it. I'm calling the police.
Okay. It's enemy. Mercury. She's got mercury poisoning.
Oh my god. All right. So Magneto apparently killed JFK, but then also
that's another thing. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's not necessary here. It's not necessary to have Richard Nixon. It's not necessary to have the Vietnam War at all. And then you're like, also kill JFK.
What's crazier, that he killed JFK, or what he said that like he found out JFK was a mutant and he was trying to protect him but failed?
What were JFK's powers, do you think?
Accents?
Yeah, just being from Massachusetts or whatever.
Yeah. He could clap loud.
Yeah. I think his power was that he could convince Marilyn Monroe to sleep with him.
Yeah.
Because I look at pictures of JFK and I'm like, he's a fucking dog. He's just...
You think?
I don't think he's attractive at all.
I think
there you go.
I would say in a world without internet, but like that was the face you saw all the time. I'm like, yeah.
I mean, among presidents, maybe he's attractive, but that's a horrible low bar.
It's a low bar.
Anyway.
Wow.
Glad he's
okay.
dead.
Because even sometimes, even with presidents, not to continue, but even with presidents though, like they'll be like, you'll see a thing of like the presidents who are hot or something, like some BuzzFeed thing. And even as you're looking down through it, you're like, but also not really.
Yeah. And John Adams is never on the list like he should be.
Where is Howard Taft or whatever?
Taft.
They get Magneto out of the prison, and Magneto and Professor X have this fiery reunion on the airplane. And I don't know, when Magneto was like, JFK was one of us, I know he means mutants, but I think he meant gay. Queer-coded, if you will. Sisters.
Also JFK's parade.
It's one of us. And also the scene on the plane. Also, so sorry, we're not talking about him, but Wolverine is here the entire time. That should be said. Fascinating how I don't really need to talk about him. He's just there to kind of remind you there's a whole future plot happening. Days of Future Past.
In all honesty, yes, because at the end, whenever they're in that last battle or whatever, I'm like, oh yeah, you really haven't done anything because your claws are your bones.
Yeah. He just kind of like alerts them, and it's like, hey, you guys should do a sequel to First Class because my franchise needs help. So your franchise needs to move so we can still live. But like this airplane moment is like the point in the movie where it becomes clear to me that this is about who controls a woman better. Is it Professor X, who was much more of a father figure to her, or Magneto, who was her unfortunate lover? Vinny Thomas, please tell us, what do you prefer? How would how do you prefer to control a woman? I bravely ask in 2023.
I think she belongs with Magneto. But I also didn't really register the question you asked. What were you saying? How do you control a woman because she's being controlled in two different ways?
Yes.
And which way is better?
You really should not have answered it. Is the right answer?
Okay.
I think the right answer is I wouldn't.
Not me. I'm different.
Well, for me, it felt fucked up. It felt like a fucked up situation. And again, the cult of Jennifer Lawrence of like, how do we control her?
Oh, by the way, and it turns out if they can't control her, one of them will just try to kill her.
Yes.
What?
Like, let's go to Paris. Cut to Paris. We have take me to this fucking midpoint of the movie, Paris. So yeah, they're like, the plan is we're gonna talk, because this is where Mystique is originally supposed to assassinate Boulevard Trask, but Magneto's like, okay, let's stop her, but JK, I'm gonna kill her. Devin Henderson, in our research, you are Parisian at heart, I believe.
Oui.
How did you take in this scene, this culture, this moment?
This war summit? The one thing that I really wish they would have included when they went to Paris was more of the handheld camcorder footage. Because at this time, that camera equipment would have been like what, $4 million a camera or something in the 70s,
probably.
So I wish they would have included a little bit more of that, and also just like fun bikes and fountains. There was only one fountain.
We did get a meal out of that fountain. That fountain was a character.
That fountain ate.
Yeah. Did y'all see My Girl the Fountain?
that fountain had a bigger role than Storm in this movie.
Yeah, truly.
Damn, that's very true.
That is so true. That fountain said, "You're gonna remember me."
Like that fountain was like, "I'm not pregnant."
She she found her light, and every one of them damn hand-hoarded cameras. You saw the fountain.
Absolutely. So this is a big mess. Mystique is sweeping the floors left and right, sliding around. Big old Swiffer. Whatever. It gets messy. Magneto, of course, takes matters into his own hands, which makes sense. He's a terrorist. You cannot trust him. How do we get out of this? He shoots Mystique. There's this crazy scene where she's got like a bullet in her calf, and he like pulls her using the magnet of the bullet to pull her. I'm like, damn.
Yuck. Yeah.
And you love her? So you treat her, the woman you love? Wolverine has a little freak out because he remembered X-Men 2 because he found young Stryker. a young Brian Cox was in the meeting. That's a thing. Whatever. Fucking Stryker. Jesus. Yeah. And then what happens? Mystique gets away. Magneto gets away. The X-Men fail, which honestly, as somebody who's watching a lot of these X-Men movies, I would say they fail more than they succeed, to be honest.
Yeah.
Did you see the future that they made? How it's terrible? That's because the X-Men were on the case. Because at the end of the day, these are just people who are born this way. I think there's a difference between superheroes that are born with powers and that are like given them or found them through accidents.
Yeah.
The ones that are born with it, they're just people. And we need to remember that.
The days of people past.
Okay. So after this, Boulevard Track is like, Mr. Nixon, I told you, don't trust these people.
Yeah, Mr. Nixon. I told you, son of a bitch. Don't trust them. They're disgusting. I'm a racist. Wow.
Wow, wee wow. Thank you for that dramatic reenactment of the scene. So Nixon is like, okay, build these robots, but make them purple. So we get classic purple Sentinels. Devin Henderson, talk to me about the design of these purple Sentinels. What are we looking at?
The new old ones, not the ones we meet first. Not the old new ones.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, first of all, they look like a, when there are like 1 a.m. infomercials for like Dyson vacuums.
Yes, I do.
And it's always a vacuum that's built in a way where you think it's a prank, that there's no way that this vacuum could work. Or like those hair dryers that are just a circle and somehow the magic of technology, the air blows through it. That's what they feel like. They have a huge fan in their chest.
Yeah.
Big fan. Yeah.
Big fan. Do love the commitment to the design though, because they don't change, their faces don't change that much into the future.
Mm-mm.
And my favorite thing about them is that they're made from a space polymer, which apparently is not metal. Now,
yeah,
I don't know that that's true. I don't care enough to look it up. But the idea that there would be no trace, I mean, Magneto can like pull the mercury out of people's blood and stuff.
The Quicksilver, yeah.
Yeah. Vinny opens his story as a diagram of how babies are made diagram, but it says like pasted Quicksilver all over it. But they look ugly in old, like the olden timey times, the 70s.
Yeah.
And then they look so like sleek whenever they're in the future and they have Mystique's power set or whatever.
What did you call it? The psoriasis,
shingles.
The shingles. Yes.
Yeah, when they have the shingles. Yeah, they do cross the line into kind of this. It's almost sexy. Like they're just beautiful, sleek, like demigods or whatever. But before that, space polymer is funny because what polymer just means like a combination of things, and it's like a combination of what? There's no way to know. That's one of those things where they could have just said it's like new age plastic or something, and would have been like amazing. Plastic is very strong, we don't need to say it's space polymer.
And I do remember that
plastic
line.
Prison.
I do remember that line. He said it's space age polymer or something, like space aged.
They love bragging that they went to the moon. They're obsessed.
They won't shut up. Can you imagine being in the 70s? People like, do you remember we went to the moon 10 years ago? Like, shut the fuck up.
And then they'll be like, how did you get in here? You're not white.
They would, I mean, to the letter, they would say that.
To the letter. I did appreciate how I feel like back in the 60s and 70s, all their designs for kind of what they thought futuristic technology would look like was kind of corny and a little dumb looking. And I guess I appreciated that about the first Sentinels, how they're just kind of weird in kind of a 70s way, I guess.
Yeah. That is so interesting you say that. I also think the same thing about like the 2000s when everything was like futuristic, like new age Y2K-esque things. Looking back, it's so fucking corny. Every time we try to like determine what the future is going to look like, we look dumb as hell.
It's bad.
We try to guess. Like, we know where this is going.
When really it's just exactly the same but hotter. There's like no difference.
They're like, what if tables actually were like kind of an amorphous blob that you couldn't sit around? That kind of sounds like the future to me.
God. We also get a lovely there's such a lovely little moment of Michael Fassbender in a little construction hat because he's watching the Sentinels get loaded into a train, and I thought he was cute, so I wrote it down. I was like, look at him in this cute little hat. Look at that cute little hat.
He's very cute, I will say.
I love. Oh my god, what happened to him? I was trying to. He didn't get canceled or anything, did he? Because I feel like I don't see him anymore, and I need to find him. I need to tell him how I feel.
I'll do some research.
Then this movie does my least favorite thing in any X-Men movie ever. They dramatize Cerebro, which is, I always think, such a dumb waste of our time just to give Professor X something to do. It's like, oh my God, watch as he thinks about people. But then this any Cerebro thoughts? Does anyone love Cerebro?
I think there's something a little bit beautiful about like trying to feel that connection he has with all of his fellow mutants with his little machine. Okay, fuck my drag. Let's keep it pushing.
The only thing I think of whenever I see that Cerebro is I was like, I would be spying on people 24/7.
Oh yeah.
I would be in everybody's business all the time.
Oh my God, yeah. I would be intervening in people's lives.
Exactly. And they'd have to intervene in mine. They would have to shut the power off to the building and like wheel my ass out and say like, what you're doing is disgusting and you need to get a life.
Like you wouldn't have, I wouldn't have like eaten or bathed in weeks.
No.
I'm just down there.
And I'm just talking, using the first names of people I've been spying on. Like Debbie's daughter didn't get into Yale and it's a very big deal.
And this leads to Charles on Charles. Because like Wolverine's like, use my mind, and
he like daisy chains into the future.
Yeah.
Wild.
And then old Charles gives young Charles a lesson that young Charles imparts on everyone else, and it's just, I do like bootstrap theory with time travel, of like who came up with this idea first. But I want to get that out of the way because I have a breaking bulletin, because I have to talk about Jennifer Lawrence's outfit at the airport, and this outfit I feel is clinically insane. It is a wide brim hat with a crop top floral print bra, I guess, and a big, heavy black trench coat. And she's like trying to be inconspicuous and it's accessorized within an inch of her life. And I'm like, I feel like she would be less conspicuous if she walked around full blue.
Yeah, or full blue. I loved this outfit. It's, to your point though, the gayest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's a drag queen. It's a drag queen doing a Coven number from American Horror Story at brunch. It's so
a Coven number.
It's so much.
You know, Damon, people used to dress up to go to the airport.
Stop.
You know, you didn't used to wear pajamas. You didn't used to wear athletic wear.
Not this 20-something person
nicely.
telling me about dressing up at the airport.
There's nothing wrong with looking good. That's all I'm going to say.
I did love in this scene where all the people talk to her as Charles. Yeah. That's also a fun prank. I love that.
I would agree.
And she immediately knows it's him because, I mean, who else could do it? But it is funny to watch like just an older woman turn and say like something so deeply personal to her and be like, bitch, what?
And then you could see when he leaves her brain and the woman's like, what did I just say?
Hey.
These people have to wonder for the rest of their lives why they did that.
What are the full scope of Mystique's powers? Can she transform into like a coffee filter or something, or it's just she's always like it's gotta be
filter?
If she was a coffee filter, would she feel the boiling water being poured on her?
I didn't think about that. I don't think she'd be used for coffee. I'm just wondering, like, it's just, you know, coffee filter, whatever, like a Can of paint.
I think it's sentient
table.
Humanoid people she can turn into.
Okay, gotcha. Like a deer. Probably not a deer.
Probably not a deer. Okay, so Mystique's
anyway, let's
like,
move on.
Yeah, she's like, we got to get to the end. She's like, fuck off, Charles. We can relate. Then it's all heading towards this big rally at the White House to announce these new Sentinels. Meanwhile, Magneto has put railroad tracks into all the Sentinels so he can control them because there's metal in them. Sorry, Space Age polymer.
Yeah.
Wolverine begs Professor X to make the X-Men. He name drops everyone except for, he calls Storm instead of Aurora, which leads me to wonder, did he ever learn her real first name?
Oh no.
I'm gonna yada 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 the third act of this movie. So shout out, if anything grabs your attention, please shout it out now. We get Nixon. This hit me differently in 2023. Did you hear Nixon quote Oppenheimer at the end? No. He quoted Robert Oppenheimer about as he was unveiling the Sentinels, and I was like, damn, did they know where we would be when we recorded this podcast?
Oh.
Magneto is like, oh my god, I need this baseball stadium. Lifts it up, takes it to, at first I was like, why is he stealing a baseball stadium? But he does like a little perimeter so no one can get in, so he can trap the White House, which sure, I guess there was no other way to do that.
Truly there's no other way. He couldn't like pick up a bunch of fences on the way.
No, had to be baseball.
That was crazy. He used
Magneto
that to block
baseball
off the White House, but it still has entrances in it.
Yeah, because you can enter a baseball stadium.
Yeah, I think that's one might even suggest that is the point of a baseball stadium,
to go into it. But he was like, "Oh, it's so the layout is so confusing. They'll never find their way through."
Oh no, we're in the bathroom with the urinal troughs, and we need to get to the White House.
He didn't put the directory in here, so now we don't know where to go. So Magneto takes over the Sentinels. Beast and Wolverine, fucking Bone Claw, are like, we got this. And I'm like, how are they going to take apart Machine when they're flesh-based superheroes? Truly, these are like my least two. I would not send them in to fight Sentinels.
They're pretty useless.
Pretty useless. Magneto puts a bunch of metal into Wolverine and sends him flying, which I find hilarious because he's like, finally, I can fight him without metal in my body.
The way he flew away was very funny too.
It was so funny, and I'm glad it was funny because watching that iron, whatever that's called, go into him was so gross. I was so turned off by that.
I'm so sorry that happened to you.
And normally,
oh my God,
are you ever into metal being put into somebody?
Absolutely. There's a time and a place for everything. I'm one of those people that you like. Actually, never mind. It's so gross. I can't even make a joke about it.
Yeah.
Ugh. But then when they like zipped him away, that was fun.
It was very fun, and he's pretty much just down for the count for the rest of the movie. Meanwhile, in the future, because again, future past, the future Sentinels are closing in. Of course, they kill the Black Mutants first. Storm and Bishop gotta go. Everybody's dying in the future, and it all comes down in 1973. Of course, it comes down to Jennifer Lawrence. She has to make a choice. Does she want to be a killer, or does she want to be a hero? What does our girl do? I can't even say it.
She turns into Richard Nixon.
She does. And she stops Magneto.
She shoots his ass right in the neck. And then he's like, great, you're not a shot anymore or whatever. And clearly dubbed over dialogue, clearly like after recorded dialogue, she says, like, I chose to miss, and kicks his ass right in the head, which to me is so much more satisfying than to be shot in a movie. Like I want to see someone's like foot to face.
That foot to face contact.
Oh.
And I feel like that's my favorite thing about Mystique is her leg stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
She'll be whipping those bad boys around like they're nothing, cracking people in the face with her heel. It's amazing.
It is amazing. I would love you would think in a prequel franchise, we would find out how she learned to do that, but we're never told. I guess it's just inherent in her. Her
Her favorite movie is Bend It Like Beckham, and that's why she can kick.
She knows it's coming.
That's in the past.
She makes the big choice not to kill, and everyone sees. And Mystique is the new hero of the century. The Sentinels disappear in the future, and then Wolverine wakes up in the new future, and all your favorite X-Men are back. Famke Jensen, James Marsden, Halle Berry, Anna Paquin, Bobby Drake, gay as ever, Colossus, Kitty Pryde. We're here. Nothing bad ever happened to us. Thank God.
Kitty what?
Kitty Pride. And then the only person who knows is Professor X. He's like, "Oh, you're this bitch again," which leads me to was the. Go ahead.
So I have multiple things I want to make sure we talk about here.
Yes.
One, something that drove me. Well, first of all, the idea that like they see Mystique save the president and then almost kill the president and then just drop the gun. The idea, like, and I know this is a fantasy, but that the American public would have so much empathy that they would no longer want to target this threat is so ridiculous. I mean,
yeah,
choose your own adventure story of insanity. Then the other thing, do you mean to tell me that Professor Xavier, after meeting Wolverine, after knowing him all these years, he's known him for a couple decades, has just been like, knowing at some point, this version of you I know is going to cease to exist, and some random man that I met for an extended weekend in the 70s is going to come back, and it's going to be like the joy of my life? The fuck?
Yeah. But I mean, that's some Dumbledore shit that I believe he would do.
Oh, of course. I mean, I believe it, but I'm also like, at the same time, like, we're not even going to address that other Wolverine that we've all known forever, he's gone.
Yeah. And also, yeah, that is true. You allowed him to be captured and tortured and turned into a killing machine. And that's my last point, is when we see him brought out of the water at the whatever, and it's Stryker who's doing it, my brain was like, genius. This is how he gets caught. This is how he forgets his whole life before this, and how like we meet him, whatever. But then it turns out it's Mystique, so it's not even Stryker that's getting him. Yeah. Oh yeah, because the eyes. Like, what the fuck? Once again, Jennifer Lawrence supremacy. I'm like, why is she gonna be here? This is the one. Let her go. I mean, the Hollywood was like, she really is the girl on fire. We have to put her in everything. Yeah. You can't. Did she ever even meet this guy in this movie? No, I don't think she did. He only talked to Xavier and Magneto and Beast. Yeah. So those are my takeaways at the end. Those are your takeaways at the end. Vinny Thomas, do you have any takeaways at the end of this movie?
No.
Okay, folks, that was Days of Future Past, but it's not the Days of Future Last for this podcast, because in fact, we have one more segment that we're going to do for you, and it's our favorite segment of this week and every week. We're doing a good old-fashioned fuck, marry, kill bot. And that's right, we're doing kill bot, because on the docket for this fuck, marry, kill, we got Boulevard Trask, played by Peter Dinklage. We've got the old Sentinels, little purple vacuums. And then we've got the new, sleeker psoriasis Sentinels. Vinny, what do they have?
Shingles.
Thank you. It's so easy to remember, but I can't. I will go first to give my guests time to think, because we rarely do robots on this podcast. So let's see. I'm going to kill the new Sentinels. I know my guest said they were very sexy, but they were kind of scary to me. I don't like that their faces open up and breathe fire. That's some dragon shit, and I don't want to be with a dragon. I can't wait for Vinny to speak his mind, but I'm going to continue on. I'm going to fuck Boulevard Trask, because I don't know. I like a man who has simmering resentment. I think that's fun, and I feel like he'd be good for a one-night aggressive situation. And I just want to help him work out some of his demons that he clearly has going on in his mind and body. And I'm going to marry the old Sentinels, because my first car was purple, just like them, and it takes me back to the good old days. And I don't know. I just feel like they had a very reasonable way of travel, and I would just use them to go from place to place. I could even visit some friends in Mid-City and maybe cut down the commute to that long resident.
I hate that shit so bad. You have no idea how many people message me saying, "Oh, I thought I saw you." And now they're going to be able to confirm that information.
Vinny, I'm sorry that people like you and want to spend time with you. What a burden it must be for you. And
they're going to find you outside walking your snake.
He doesn't have legs.
Anyway, Vinny Thomas, 3-time guest for the 3rd time. Please give us your fuck, marry, kill.
Okay,
show us how it's done.
Here's my fuck, marry, kill, and Devin's going to agree with me. I can already tell. Boulevard Trask, marry. He's got a good government job. It's a solid life. I would make us a beautiful home in like a Frank Lloyd Wright Usonian situation.
Can I pop in real quick? He did get arrested at the end of this movie.
And I would stand by my man.
I'd hold him down.
I would, and that's my man. And I would hold it down at home. And we would live once again in a beautiful Frank Lloyd Wright Usonian home. And he would be in jail. I don't think I would visit him. But I would have control of the assets, which is what's important.
Because you would be fucking someone.
Yeah. Marry Boulevard Trasks. Kill the old Sentinels. What am I supposed to do with those?
What?
Absolutely kill the old Sentinels, and it's not close. Marry sexy new Sentinels who shapeshift, are sleek, beautiful, and naked all the time. Let me tell you, that face opens up for fire, but it could open up for probably anything.
Wow.
Hey.
So that's my answer.
Okay.
And it's the correct answer.
You know, I've been learning there's no real right answers in life, but all right. Devin Henderson, please. Who are your picks?
I'm really gonna disagree with both of you.
Wow.
If I'm doing this math correctly. And I'm gonna kind of cheat. I'm gonna kill
everyone. Kill.
Wow. I am going to kill Peter Dinklage's character. Actually, you know what? No. Oh. Damon, I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna sleep with Dinklage, but the way I'm gonna cheat is I'm gonna sleep with him before he gets his Sons of Anarchy goatee that he's currently sporting, where it's a sort of like a Duck Dynasty situation.
Oh, good. Yeah,
he's so cute. Before that, I don't know why straight dudes do that shit. I don't know why straight guys are like, I'd love this beard that I have no desire to take care of. It's just going to make my neck itchy for the next 3 years.
Yeah. They don't see how beautiful they are before that.
They don't. And I'm like, what? Oh, so I'm going to get with Task or Fast, whatever his name is in this movie. Trask prior to the goatee. But I am going to cheat, and I'm just going to like kill him there while he sleeps so he doesn't kill anybody. That's the other thing in this movie. I'm like, just kill him like outside of view of other people.
Yeah, that really, honestly, yeah. It is the public assassination.
That's the problem, is that everybody's motivated by it. Like, put something in his drink, and then whatever drugs Charles is on, give him those.
Yeah. Children's Motrin.
That's all it is. It's boiled down Flonase. Then I am gonna kill the new Sentinels because they do scare me as well. I didn't like how many of them there are. I don't like kind of the way they move. Seems weird to me.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna marry the old ones because I could use because vacuums are expensive and I could use that.
Hey, you're preaching to the choir. Thank you all so much. That's Fuck, Marry, Kill, and that's X-Men Days of Future Past. I truly, I feel like I hit all my complaints, but I truly do like this movie, and I think it's a solid A for me. I will give it an A. I will, if I just treat Jennifer Lawrence like an actress that she is, it's an A. And honestly, I'm nervous because I think it's downhill from here, folks. Stay tuned. But before we get to that, let's do some socials. Devin Henderson, where are you online? What's going on? Anything popping off in Chicago?
You can definitely find me online. I am so bad with social media that I don't even know what my tag is. I think it's at Devin Henderson, my first initial and last name switched. And then if you're in Chicago, my team, my son Daniel, has a show every Monday at a place called the Foxhole. Or if you follow me on social, you can I'll be posting about them.
Love it. Vinny Thomas, what's up?
Yes, you can find me at VINN_AYY. That's VINN_AYY on Twitter, TikTok, Threads, Instagram. Furthermore, stay tuned for any upcoming events and etc. God bless you and thank you.
Not this bitch reading. No. Not reading a pre-written promo. And reading it poorly. I can't believe it.
I mean, shit, that was like jazz, baby. That was off the dome. Anyway, my day is future past. Period.
This is Podcast 616. You can follow Podcast 616 on Instagram at Podcast 616P3. That P3 stands for Press Play Podcasts, our podcasting network that lets me truly do whatever I want. They're lucky. I'm always nervous to disappoint people, so I always follow the rules. Producer Michael's not here today, but I'm sure he would give this podcast episode an A++. Thank you to Devin. Thank you to Vinny. Thank you to the Days of Future Past. We'll be back next week to talk about X-Men Apocalypse. Please come. If I have to watch it, please support me on my mission. I'm scared. I've only seen it once and I don't think it's good. But until that time, please remember that with great power comes even greater responsibility.